In the deepest silence of the night, when the world sleeps and only the restless can hear the sound of their own heartbeat, reality seems to bend toward the unknown. It is in those precise moments, at 3:33 a.m., that inexplicable events come alive, weaving stories that defy all rational explanation. Jake Mitchell, a young nurse recently transferred to a small town in the American Midwest, experienced something unforgettable, a mysterious vision that would forever change his nights. Jake had never been one to believe in superstitions or urban legends. Raised in a bustling Chicago neighborhood, he grew up trusting only what he could see and touch. His new job on the overnight shift at St. Agnes Hospital seemed more like a professional challenge than a source of mystery. Yet on that particular night, the hospital's main hallway seemed to take on a different life. The lights flickered, the air grew inexplicably heavy, and an unnatural chill crept over Jake, as if someone or something was watching him from the shadows. A few weeks into his new routine, co-workers began whispering about strange sightings at exactly 3:33, but Jake always brushed off those stories with a laugh. He couldn't know that the next hours would change everything. As he finished his rounds, he sensed a strange presence right behind him, accompanied by a faint, chilling whisper. Suddenly, fear became very real. Jake realized not all hauntings belong to the imagination. Sometimes they creep quietly into reality, challenging even the most logical of mind. Jake enjoyed the hospital's nighttime quiet. For him, those peaceful hours were a welcome escape from the hustle outside. But on that particular night, the silence felt different, almost overwhelming. Each step he took down the hallway echoed off the walls, amplifying the feeling that the hospital was far too empty. The clock struck 3:32 as he finished inspecting the last room. An uneasy sensation filled the air, growing heavier with each passing second. On his way to the break room, Jake felt a chill climb up his spine. It was the kind of sensation you can't explain, only experience. The corridor, lit by flickering fluorescent lights, seemed much longer than usual. For a moment, he thought he saw a shadow dart across at the end, but when he blinked, everything looked normal again. For an instant, fear fought against logic, but he took a deep breath, telling himself it was just exhaustion playing tricks. Before he reached the end of the hall, at the peak of suspense, Jake pauses. Have you ever experienced something similar? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel. Stories like this are told here every week. Back in the story, as Jake glanced at the clock, now exactly at 3:33, an intense presence approached. It was no longer just a feeling, but something almost tangible. His heart raced, and Jake was sure something extraordinary was about to happen. As the digital clock on the wall flickered 3:33, an even deeper silence settled over the hospital. Jake froze, listening to the steady rhythm of his own breath and the distant hum of medical equipment. Suddenly, a faint rustling echoed, and a distorted figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. Her face was impossible to see clearly, just the outline of a woman dressed in white, standing completely motionless, staring at him with an invisible gaze that cut straight through him. Jake could barely move. All the stories he'd heard from co-workers about the woman in the hallway, about voices whispering names and footsteps coming from nowhere, suddenly began to make strange sense. He tried to reason it out. Maybe it was just a lost patient, or perhaps someone playing a cruel trick. But deep down, something about the presence told him this was beyond rational explanation. His palms were sweating, and for reasons he couldn't name, his body refused to run. During this moment of pure suspense, let's hear from you. Have you ever witnessed something supernatural or seen something you couldn't explain? Share your story in the comments. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss the next incredible accounts. As Jake's thoughts spiraled in search of answers, he noticed the figure made no move. Panic slowly gave way to curiosity. Maybe, by facing this fear, he would finally uncover the truth hidden within these midnight halls. In a sudden surge of courage, Jake decided to take a few slow steps toward the motionless figure at the end of the corridor. Each footfall made the floor creak softly, amplifying his sense that the slightest movement could trigger something terrifying. The female figure, unmoving, seemed to be waiting for him, as if her very existence depended on that brief encounter. Seconds dragged on in agonizing suspense. The cold around him intensified, blending fear and fascination in equal measures as he drew closer. As he walked, Jake tried to recall every safety protocol he'd been taught since his arrival at the hospital. Yet nothing could have prepared him for a situation this far beyond ordinary experience. He couldn't look away, noticing tiny detail, the delicate movements, the slight sway of her dress as if touched by an invisible breeze. The whole scene felt distorted, and for a moment Jake questioned whether he was truly awake or already trapped in a nightmare. Before crossing the halfway point of the corridor and before continuing the story, pause for a moment. If you haven't yet liked or subscribed, do so now. Your engagement helps keep this space alive with ever more chilling stories. Back to Jake. He struggled to control his breathing, cold sweat trickling down his face. He was just a few steps away from discovering who or what really haunted the hospital corridors at 3:33 in the morning. When Jake stopped just a few meters from the figure, time seemed to slow to a crawl. The fluorescent light flickered again, casting shadows that danced across the cold white floor. He tried to speak, "Are you all right?" But his voice came out as nothing more than a muffled whisper. The woman gently tilted her head, a motion both delicate and deeply unsettling, suggesting she'd actually heard him. Jake searched her face for any sign of humanity, but her expression was vague, nearly translucent, as if her presence hovered between two worlds. The apparition slowly raised a hand, pointing toward one of the closed doors along the hallway. In that moment, Jake was overwhelmed by a mix of terror and the urge to understand. Was this a plea for help, a warning, or a trick of his exhausted mind? Time hung suspended. Guided by instinct, Jake took 2 cautious steps forward. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the figure vanished. All that lingered was the memory of that gesture, floating in the air like an unfulfilled promise and a silent invitation to the unknown. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you do in Jake's place? Would curiosity overcome your fear, or would you run away immediately? Tell us in the comments. Your input makes each story even more intense. For Jake, the urge to investigate behind the indicated door was irresistible. He knew that from this moment on, his life would never be the same, and he sensed a new mystery was about to reveal itself. Gripped by an unexpected surge of bravery, Jake walked toward the door the apparition had pointed to. Every step felt impossibly heavy, as though the floor itself was trying to hold him back. With a trembling hand, he slowly turned the doorknob, his heart pounding in his chest. A musty odor and a cold draft wafted from the dark room beyond, intensifying his anxiety. For a moment, Jake considered retreating, but he remembered the look in the mysterious figure's eyes, equal parts sorrow and pleading. Pushing the door open, Jake discovered an old room, long forgotten by time. The space was draped in dusty sheets, the furniture seemingly untouched for decades, and a distinct feeling settled over him, as if time itself had stopped there. In the corner, he spotted a battered wooden box, its surface carved with almost unrecognizable letters. As he moved closer, Jake sensed a strange energy, like the object held the pent-up memories and pain of the place. He realized that behind every mystery, there's always a hidden story waiting to be revealed. Pause for reflection. Would you dare to open the box and face an unknown past? Comment below about how you'd react in this situation, and remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the end of this and other spine-chilling stories. For Jake, that moment marked not just a turning point in his own life, but the start of a new understanding about courage, destiny, and the secrets that lurk in the quietest corners of the night. Jake Mitchell would never be the same after that night. By pushing beyond his fears and following clues left by the unknown, he discovered more than just the secrets hidden within the hospital's silent walls. He uncovered the extraordinary strength we all possess when facing our deepest uncertainties. The encounter with the mysterious figure at 3:33 a.m. became more than just a memory. It was a turning point, revealing how courage often emerges in life's most unexpected moments. The apparition's gaze and the hidden answers within the worn box taught Jake that life's mysteries aren't here just to scare us, but rather to spur us towards self-knowledge and emotional growth. After all, every dark corridor holds the potential for unforgettable experiences if you're willing to see beyond logic and dive bravely into the unknown. The quiet nights would never feel the same again. Now, every shadow hinted at the promise of a new discovery. St. Agnes Hospital continued its routine peacefully by day, but at night, stories like Jake's would quietly travel among those brave enough to look beyond the obvious. The underlying message remains: each of us can be be the protagonist of extraordinary moments, if only we have the courage to open doors and confront whatever lies beyond. The supernatural, after all, might simply be the beginning of a truly remarkable journey.